My name is Max Eddy. When I was a little kid, my father owned a tourist home in Niagara Falls. And tourist home is like the precursor of bed and breakfast. It was just tourists would get a room for the evening or a week. No breakfast involved, anything like that. So obviously people get forgetful and they leave things, forget things. And my father had a big box and he would put the items in the box. And if no one claimed them within 30 days, he'd give them away or whatever, throw them out. And there was a camera in there one day. A little tiny, I don't even know what it was called. It was one of the ones you put a little flash bulb in. And you took pictures and, obviously had to bring them to the drugstore and have them developed. But that was in there and I wanted it. And he says, when 30 days go by, if no one claims it, it's yours. So that's what happened. So I was about 10, 11 years old. And I just started taking pictures, random. My friends, my toys, things like that. And one thing led to another, and I had that camera a long time. And when I was about 23, 24, my friend was a professional photographer, and he had, your old 35 millimeter cameras. And I liked the one he had, so I went and bought one of those. But very expensive back then. You had to buy film. Half the pictures would come out terrible. And then you'd have to pay for development. So it was an expensive hobby. So I would go on and off with it for a few years. And then I left it alone for a very long time. And about 10 years ago, with the digital age, I says, let me get back into it. And I like it a lot better now because it's a memory card. You don't spend money on film. You don't spend money on development. You don't get 40 pictures developed and 30 of them are crappy. I do a lot of pictures of Niagara Falls. I really like the Whirlpool Rapids walkway over in Canada. So those are great pictures, but it's hard to say because a lot of the photos I take, I'm really excited about from every angle. And I enjoy taking portraits of people. That's kind of fun. Well, obviously living in Niagara Falls, New York, I love the landscape photography, the falls, the river, the rapids. And then I love taking pictures of people. There's nothing more interesting than people. I really enjoy that, especially a pretty girl. I like taking pictures like that. I would like to take rock pictures of bands, but don't have the opportunity to do that. The tips, I'm not too sure I can give any. What I do is I take a lot of, I'll take about 5-6 pictures of the same thing, and one of them's going to come out spectacular. So, but, take your time, make sure everything's framed, make sure the camera's focusing on it, because a lot of times you'll think it's focused, then later on you realize it's not. I've had that happen a lot. Well, I can't think of anyone on a professional level. Other photographers I really like is a guy named Doug DeRamio from Niagara Falls, New York. He knows, he's been studying photography most of his life, and he really knows what he's doing. His pictures come out great. He knows his camera. He knows the techniques. And he knows the functionalities of the camera, where he can take, he takes a lot of excellent photos. There's a friend of mine named Joe Falsetti, and he is fantastic with portraits. And he influenced me a lot. he does very nice portraits of people. He does a lot of black and white. I don't really do black and white because I like color, and but I'm not knocking black and white photography. I just like color better, but it's a personal preference. Then I like a guy named Barney Gallagher. He does some very good landscape photography, mostly in Niagara Falls, New York area, and he's a pretty talented guy. I'm a very simple guy. The camera I bought is autofocus. It does everything for me. Sometimes it doesn't do it right, and like going back to like make sure your pictures are in focus, because it's supposed to be autofocus. And there's been several times where the pictures came out totally blurry and I had to discard them. That's another reason I'll take numerous pictures of the same subject, because you get a couple that are out of focus. If you didn't take a few more and have a good one in there, you're out of luck. You're stuck with some ugly, unfocused pictures. I don't have any toys. I just use that one camera, for better or for worse. To be honest, I still don't know how to work all of it. By no means am I a professional, and there's a lot of stuff there that I don't understand about my camera. As time goes on, hopefully I can expand my knowledge on that. I point and shoot, basically. I mean, I'll aim it. I'll get the idea in my mind of the type of picture I want. I'll aim the camera, move it around till I get what I want, and snap the picture. Point and shoot, basically. But there's, I make sure I'm getting the things in the picture that I want, Sometimes I try to be a little creative, and usually works out pretty good. The mist on the falls gives me a problem, because I go to Canada a lot, and I'll go down in the gorge and near the falls, and if the mist is coming at you, you got to remember, you don't want your camera getting soaking wet. You don't want all sorts of dots and drops on your lens. That can be annoying. And one thing about the mist, it makes the finish, if you're shooting directly into it, it's like an unfocused photograph. You're not getting any detail or clarity. So I wait. When I see the wind blowing the mist the other way, then I run out there and snap as many pictures as I can of the object I want. And then the mist starts coming back. I duck, put my camera under my shirt or something so it don't get wet. Well, obviously anywhere along the Niagara River, like the Falls, Goat Island. I like the old-time forts, Fort Niagara, Fort Erie, Fort George. They're, interesting things to photograph. When I do those types of photos, I try, and landscape, I try not to get any man-made objects in there. For the landscape pictures, I strive to not put man-made object in there. For the simple fact is I'm trying to get it to look like something from 500 years ago, where you wouldn't see a building or a telephone pole or things like that. With the forts and historic photography, obviously I try not to get any modern items in those photos. I try to make it look like it would look if you were standing in front of it 300 years ago. Well, I take the memory card, I stick it in the computer, I download the photos, I go through them, I get rid of the bad ones. Then if I see a few that I really like, I enhance them through, I don't know what you would call it, the app or the software. So I might brighten it up a little. I might add a little color, a little clarity, depending on if it needs it. If it doesn't need it, I leave it alone. I like to tell. I do a Facebook page about the history of Niagara Falls. It's called The Real Old Falls Street People. And obviously I get old historic photos, but I put a lot of my stuff on there. I try to take pictures of stuff that has personal meaning to me. And I tell stories about, when I was a young kid, I was here and I did this, I did that. Try to make it interesting. I try my best. I enjoy telling stories. I got a big mouth. I have a lot of life experience and a lot of memories, and I like to share them with people. Actually, today I got a compliment on that Facebook page. I forget exactly what I put on there, but I wrote a story behind it, and someone made a comment. They said, I don't like to read, but if you wrote a book, I would definitely buy it and read it, because the way you tell a story is very interesting and very enjoyable. And that was a huge compliment. I have goals. I call them missions. And basically it all revolves back around Niagara Falls. For instance, I've done a lot in the past couple of years, and I've accomplished a lot of these missions, I call them. I have 3 left that I want to really do. I want to go to the Skyline Tower in Canada, up to the top in the winter. Hopefully there'll be a lot of snow and ice, and I want to photograph the falls with snow and ice from the skyline, from an aerial view. I also have in the fall, the end of October, I'm planning it for the October 28th, because both these attractions close the following week. But I'm going to go on the Whirlpool Aero car, and I want to get photographs of the Whirlpool Rapids and the gorge with the leaves, colorful leaves. Same thing with Table Rock. I'm going to go there, go down the elevator in the winter and photograph the Horseshoe Falls area in the winter, hopefully encrusted in ice and snow. And also the Whirlpool Rapids walkway. I want to do that the same day I do the Aero car, to get a close up and personal view of the rapids with the pretty leaves, the colored leaves around it. Well, it's kind of weird getting recognized in public. It's happened a lot lately. I'm coming out of the gorge, and some people were sitting there, and they go, "Are you Max?" And I says, "Yeah." I go, "How do you know who I am? I don't know you." They says, "Oh, we love your Facebook page, and we just saw a guy." They put 2 and 2 together. They saw a guy coming out of the gorge with a camera. "Oh, that's Max Eddy." So, because I go down the gorge, I try to get all sorts of shots from all sorts of places. Like recently, me and my ex-girlfriend got together casually and walked from Art Park along the gorge all the way up to the power plant. That was fun. I'd never done that before. I've been all through the gorge in my life, but I never did that particular walk. So that was fun. Got a lot of neat pictures. I'd never been down there before, so it was a discovery for me.
How about the time you were attacked by birds?
Oh, I was thinking of that, and actually I forgot. Back when this COVID dilemma occurred, it started, I did a lot of photography because I was bored, I was lonely. So I was walking from my house. I live in the Jefferson Apartments in Niagara Falls. And some days I'd walk along the river right up to Devil's Hole doing photography. I did that a lot. It was good for the exercise. It was good for getting some nice pictures. One time I was on Goat Island, and it was late. It was early spring. That's another thing I want to touch on too about spring and fall. But so I was taking a bunch of pictures at Three Sisters Islands, and I was on the third island, and I turned around. There's a goose sitting there on the ground right there in front of me. I didn't see him when I had walked in, or when I came. I turned around, there he was. He or she. I can't tell the difference. But this goose looked at me, and this thing hissed at me like a snake. I never saw that in my life. He was close. I was close to him. He hissed at me, and I know they have a reputation for being a nasty little critter. So I slowly moved to the right, and I kept walking to the right. And his eyes were following me. He's hissing all the time. And then when I got a certain distance, I picked up the pace and got the heck out of there. But he wanted to come after me, I'm pretty sure. But luckily I got away quick. It impacts my life because I enjoy it. I enjoy getting out. I enjoy going places and not, vegetating at home. So I need the exercise. It's a combination of things. It's very enjoyable, and there's a great satisfaction in doing it, especially when I get when I look at everything on the computer and I get those shots that are fantastic. And then of course, if I post them, people like them, and compliment them, that's also a great deal of satisfaction. I wanted to touch on something before I forget. With techniques, with my photography, I enjoy photographing in the winter and spring. Of course, the fall is one thing because of the beautiful colors. But I would rather photograph in the spring and the late fall or winter because all the leaves are off the trees and you get more detail. When I take pictures in the summer, the trees, are covered in, green foliage, whatever you want to call it. And you don't see details. For instance, me and my friend Mike Miller went on the Whirlpool Aero car in the spring. And the leaves weren't on the trees yet. And you get a lot of detail. You get detail of the river. You get detail of the walls of the gorge. So I really enjoy that. I like the detail. Now, taking the pictures in the summer, it's going to be pretty and everything, but you're not going to see the little nooks and crannies and, interesting rock formations, whatever. Well, I'm not really involved in the industry, so I wouldn't know how to break into it. But I mean, I have got a lot of compliments. I have actually sold some photos. But my tip is take your time. Learn your camera. Take your time. Frame your shot. Sometimes a shot, you don't have time to frame it. Something might be happening and you want to get a quick picture. So learn how to operate your camera in that type of situation too. But otherwise, take your time. Get your idea in your mind. What I do is I get a picture in my mind. And then I go out and I photograph it. And it usually works pretty well for me. So get your idea, point your camera, focus it, do your composition. If you want this tree, on the side, whatever. Just take your time, take your picture, be patient. Try to take a few pictures of the same object. You'll be surprised. You'll get one that might be spectacular, award-winning. I enjoy it a lot. It means a lot to me, and I just hope that other people enjoy what I do.